Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
Hey, my name is Sam Singold, or Lego History Sam on Instagram and YouTube. So this is my fleet. It's all from the Spanish-American War to modern day. So one of the biggest ships I actually made is USS Iowa BB-61. So she was in World War II, Korea, and in the 1980s. So yeah, she's over 7 feet long. So that's the biggest ship in my fleet. So
That's a very impressive build there. So take us through some of the details of that. You've got a very kind of sleek looking, very few studs there, which isn't always an easy thing to do.
oh yeah, that's my favorite. I love to make my models just like purist, kind of like looks like an actual like model building kit. I had a couple people come up and they're like, "Oh, that's actually Lego? What is this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is Lego." But a lot of the little details, so all like the little 20 millimeter anti-aircraft guns, so those like minifigure hands. So all those little anti-aircraft guns on the side of the ship are actually minifigure hands. And then I have like what was it? I can't remember what the gun is, but the secondary guns. I just designed them one, and I just copied and pasted them on all of them. But the 16-inch gun turrets are like my absolute favorite. I nailed that. It was just how to get all that little detail in that one turret. It took me about like a couple hours to get that. So, yeah.
Well, impressive work there. So, how about the whole of that ship as well? What pieces did you use to kind of create that shaping?
So funny thing, I actually went to Mall of America one year. So this actually took me about 3 years. So when I was halfway through it, I was like, okay, I'm going to Mall of America. I found a lot of 1x2 flat plates. I got five pick-a-brick cups full. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I need to get through this. It took me about 3 hours to just get the haul done. 3 hours of just putting plates together. Then I missed one. I'm like, oh, shoot. I need to rip it apart and put them together. But, yeah, that's how I got all the haul. So, yeah.
Very impressive stuff there. Have you been to the actual ship itself to kind of get inspiration for the build?
No. I'm originally from Iowa. So they had an Iowa documentary. And the guys actually from the USS Iowa came out to see the actual, like, what was it? The documentary. And I brought this. I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And they're like, oh, this is so cool. And like, do you want to bring it down? I'm like, yeah, I can bring it down if you pay for the shipping. But they want it down there, and I want to go see her because she's the like few battleships left in the world. But yeah, she's beautiful. So.
Well, we'll take a look at some more then here as well. So you've got some really fantastic stuff over here. What is this one of your other bigger builds?
So interesting, that is the USS Juno CL-52. Why I made her is because the 5 Sullivan brothers from Waterloo, Iowa, they all died on the same ship in the Battle of Guadalcanal on November 13th, 1942. And that was a major loss to for the public, because losing 5 boys is just from the same family. It's very tragic. So I made her out of Legos because no one else made an Atlanta at this time. So when I was halfway through it, everyone was making Atlantas. So I'm like, geez, I skipped out the ball. So it's one of the biggest builds. It's shrunken in size because of Iowa, but it's one of my absolute favorites because of the 5-inch guns. That's what it is, 5-inch guns. Start out with Laffy, and then I'm like, okay, if I duplicate this, I can make any ship in the U.S. Navy during World War II. It's just incredible. So, yeah, everything moves on her. Like the torpedo tubes move.
Can you demonstrate some of that here? Yeah.
Sure. So like, the torpedo tubes actually move here. The 5-inch guns move. The 40 millimeter buffers, like the 20 millimeters move, kinda. It's been a long time. It's a little
some playability there.
Oh yeah, some playability, but yeah, it's so fragile because I had brick bending on the bow, so I had to put a piece of wood underneath it. And first time I did that, the whole bow just broke, and I'm like, that's not gonna work anymore. She's the basic prototype of the Iowa. If I can make something good like this, and I learned some like learned some techniques that I can make the Iowa. So she was my prototype ship. So, yeah.
Very nice. And how about this one in front of it here?
This one's special to me. So this is the first ship I ever built. USS Laffey DD-724. So she is actually my great-grandfather's ship. He served in the Korean War. So you can see that I have the photos of him. And I went to the Laffey reunion in October. And I brought the ship down to the actual ship. It was super cool. All of them were like, hey, this is awesome. It's like in 1944. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's in the 44 configuration. And then I brought actually to the museum, and the museum's like, we need you to build a carrier, an Essex class carrier. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's huge. It's longer than Iowa. But yeah, that was the first ship. I learned a lot of lessons on that. I got a little custom kind of like printed on the bow, so that's the number DD-724. So yeah.
That's really cool, the personal connection. And where is the real ship based today?
The real ship is actually in Charleston, South Carolina. She's the last of the Allen M. Sumner class destroyers. She's very significant because she got attacked by 22 kamikazes in 90 minutes in Okinawa. Actually, from the second stack back was all in flames. That whole thing was just gone. She literally was spinning around in circles because she had 3 bomb hits on her stern or the back of the ship. And she's spinning around in circles because her rudder was damaged all the way to Pearl Harbor. So I think that was the number one thing that I think people should know about all these ships. So.
Yeah. Well, something that's cool here is with the array of ships you have, you've got different scales and sizes. So take us through some of these kind of smaller models in the front here.
Okay. A lot of these are like different, how can I say it, different eras. So I have Spanish-American War here with Vitruvius. Yes, that's the word. Vitruvius. I always mix it up. That's okay. Vitruvius here is a dynamite gun cruiser. She's the only one of her kind. So she basically bombarded beaches like what the destroyers were in World War II. But that one is very unique because it's in the Great White camo scheme. So the Great White Fleet was in like the late 1900s. So I'm like, hey, I need something white instead of all this gray. The fleet of gray. So then I wanted to make one from World War One. One from World War One, and that one's really cool because it has single torpedoes. So the torpedo tubes are actually single, so they're not like Laffey or any of my destroyers that multiple torpedoes. Those are single, and also the guns can actually fire forward because I have the angled pieces there. But yeah, that one's Smith, I think. And then the next one is Reuben James. She was actually sunk before Pearl Harbor was attacked. So she was sunk on October of 1941 by a German U-boat. So there's a song I really like to sing, the Sinking of the Reuben James back in 1942. So I'm like, hey, I need to make this. So I made it, and it's really cool. So yeah.
This next one down definitely catches your eye. It certainly stands out among all the gray here.
Oh yeah, it is. So it's based after a propaganda poster from World War I. So it says, "Keep the sea lanes open." And it has a ship, kind of like this, but it's actually it's a different class. But I'm like, hey, it's so cool. It gives that dazzle camouflage of the time period. So it's all tan and it's all like blues, and it pops. It makes it looks like the clown of the fleet. So.
And moving down here, we've got some different stuff. You kind of move into some submarines, different types of ships.
Oh yeah, the Clamagore. The Clamagore was a museum ship at Patriots Point, but she actually was scrapped in last year. She was the last of her class, but I actually got a piece of her right there. So same thing with Iowa. I have a piece of the Iowa too, but I think this one is really interesting because it's all black. So after World War II, they made it all black so it can blend in beneath the water. And so, yeah, that one's all just like one stud, and I did snap technique outside of that. It's really cool.
What's the one behind it there?
So that's Brickmania's U505 that's coming in the Chicago store. So Dan, I'm like, hey Dan, I see you have this U505. Can I put it here? He's like, yeah, you can keep it. I'm like, what? I can keep a Brickmania kit, exclusive Brickmania kit? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow, you're awesome, Dan. And then why I have her there is because of Pillsbury. So the destroyer escort right next to her, she actually helped capture U-505, and there's a photo on there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see the sub like alongside her. So I'm like, that is super cool to see. It's not the same scale, but hey, it's U-505. You got to have a sub, German submarine.
And what are these smaller ones out front here?
So the smaller one is actually, I can't remember what the tugboat's name is, but that one actually was at Pearl Harbor. So she helped, I think it was Virginia. No, it was Nevada. She helped Nevada because Nevada escaped and she beached herself. So she was trying to back up. So that tugboat actually helped Nevada get out of that very stucky situation. And she's actually a museum ship. I don't know where at, but she's a museum ship. And I'm like, hey, I need a tugboat for the fleet.
Very nice. And then over here, you mentioned the Sullivan brothers earlier. So what is this one?
So the Sullivan brothers, that one's actually still here. It's in Buffalo, New York. So that one's named after the boys, like the Navy usually does. But this is the first ship that actually named after more than one people. So it's for the all boys, not just one. It's all of them. So this is her in her 1960s configuration. But it's the same configuration as she is now, but everything moves, like the torpedo tubes move and all the anti-aircraft. That's what I try to do with all my ships, to have everything able to move. And it's a really interesting how Fletcher's, like the USS Fletcher over here, we're going to talk about that later, and the Sullivans over the time of like 20 years. Look how different these ships are. So yeah, it's super interesting.
Well, very impressive work here, and I know you mentioned you're on Instagram and YouTube as well, so what types of content do you put out there if people want to see more of your builds?
So I actually am building up a 21-ship Navy, so I have some more ships coming out. So literally, I'm posting ship models every day, not every day, once in a while, but mostly like events like this, and it's super cool being here at World War Brick and posting it on Instagram and all that fun stuff, so yeah.
Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah, no problem.